Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Welcome all to today's reading from Sri Caitanya Charitamrita Adi Lila chapter 17, verse 103 onwards. We'll be reading today. Mukam karoti vachalam pangum langhayate girim yat kripa tamham vande Shri Gurum Dina Taridam Paramananda Madhavam Shri Caitanya Ishwaram Hari Om Tat Sat. आर दिने ज्योतिष सर्व जना एका आयला ताहारे सम्मान करी प्रभु प्रश्न कायला. Our Dine, some other day, Jyotisha, an astrologer, Sarvjana, who knows everything, Eka one Aila came there, Tahare unto him, Samman Kari, giving all honor, Prabhu the Lord, Prashna, question, Kaila put. On another day, an astrologer came who was said to know everything, past, present, and future. Thus Sri Caitanya Mahāprabhu received him with all honor and put this question before him. Purport: Brahmanas generally used to become astrologers, Ayurvedic physicians, teachers, and priests. Although highly learned and respectable, such Brahmanas went from door to door to distribute their knowledge. A Brahman would first go to a householder's home to give information about the functions to be performed on a particular tithi or date. But if there were sickness in the family members would consult the Brahmana as a physician, and the Brahmana would give instruction and some medicine. Often, since the Brahmanas were expert in astrology, people would also be greatly inquisitive about their past, present, and future. Although the Brahman appeared at Lord Chaitanya's house as a beggar, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu received him with great respect because he was a qualified Brahman who knew the astrological science perfectly. Although Brahmanas would go door to door just like beggars, they were honored as very respectable guests. This was the system in Hindu society 500 years ago, during the time of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. This system was current even 100 years ago, even 50 or 60 years ago, when we were children. This is Prabhupada saying that in the early 1900s, this system was still prevailing. Such Brahmanas would visit householders like humble beggars, and people would derive great benefit from the mercy of such Brahmanas. The greatest benefit was that a householder could save a great deal of money from being spent on doctors' bills, because the Brahmanas, aside from explaining the past, present, and future, could ordinarily cure all kinds of diseases simply by giving instructions and some medicines. Thus, no one was bereft of the benefit of a first-class physician, astrologer, and priest. That was the qualified Brahmanas. The important members of ISKCON should give careful attention to our Dallas school, where children are being taught Sanskrit and English to become perfect Brahmanas. If they are actually trained as perfect Brahmanas, they can save society from rogues and ruffians. Indeed, people can live happily under the protection of qualified Brahmins. Therefore, the Bhagavad Gita 4.13 gives special stress to the division of society Chatur Varnyam Maya Srishtam Guna Karma Vibhagashaha. Unfortunately, some people are now claiming to be Brahmanas simply by birthright, but with no qualifications. Therefore, the entire society is in a chaos. Verse 104. Ke achilun ami purva janme kaha gani ganite lagila sarva jana prabhu vakya shuni. Ke achilun ami, who I was purva janme in my previous birth, kahas, please say gani by your astrological calculation. Ganite, to calculate, lagila, began, sarvjana, a man who knows past, present, and future, or is it sarvagya? Prabhu Vakya, the words of the Lord Chaitanya, Shuni, hearing. Translation: please tell me who I was in my previous birth. The Lord said, please tell me by your astrological computations. Hearing the words of the Lord, the astrologer immediately began to calculate. Purport: through astrology one can know past, present, and future. Modern Western astrologers have no knowledge of the past or future, nor can they perfectly say anything about the present. Herein we find, however, that after hearing Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's order, the astrologer immediately began his calculations. This was not a facade. He actually knew how to ascertain one's past life through astrology. A still existing treatise called the Bhrigu Samhita describes a system by which anyone can immediately get information about what he was in the past and what he is going to be in the future. The Brahmanas, who went door to door as if beggars, had perfect command of such vast knowledge. Thus, the highest knowledge was easily available even to the poorest man in society. The poorest man could inquire from an astrologer about his past, present, and future with no need for business agreements or exorbitant payments. The Brahmana would give him all the benefit of his knowledge without asking remuneration, and the poor man in return would offer a handful of rice or anything he had in his possession to satisfy the Brahman. In a perfect human society, perfect knowledge in any science, medical, astrological, ecclesiastical, and so on, is available even to the poorest man. In the present day, however, no one can get justice, medical treatment, astrological help, or ecclesiastical enlightenment without money, and since people are generally poor, they are bereft of the benefits of all these great sciences. Verse 105. Gani dhyane dekhe sarvajna maha jyotirmaya ananta vaikuntha brahmand sabar ashraya. Gani by calculation, dhyane by meditation, dekhe see, sarvajna knower of everything, maha jyotirmaya highly effulgent body, Ananta unlimited, Vaikuntha spiritual world, Brahmand planets, Sabar of all of them, Ashraya shelter. Translation: through calculation and meditation, the all-knowing astrologer saw the greatly effulgent body of the Lord, which is the resting place of all the unlimited Vaikuntha planets. Purport: here we get some information of the Vaikuntha world or spiritual world. Vaikuntha means without anxiety. In the material world, everyone is full of anxiety, but another world where there is no anxiety is described in the Bhagavad Gita 8.20. Paras tasmat tu bhavo anyo avyakto avyaktat sanatanaha yah sa sarveshu bhuteshu nashyatsu na vinashyati. Yes, there is another unmanifest nature which is eternal and is transcendental to this manifested and unmanifested matter. It is supreme and is never annihilated. When all in this world is annihilated, that part remains as it is. As there are many planets within the material world, there are many millions of planets called Vaikuntha Lokas in the spiritual world. All these Vaikuntha Lokas or superior planets rest on the effulgence of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, as stated in the Brahma Samhita, Yasya Prabha Prabhavato Jagad Andakoti. The Brahman effulgence emanating from the body of the Supreme Lord creates innumerable planets in both the spiritual and material worlds. Thus, these planets are creations of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The astrologer saw Sri Caitanya Mahāprabhu to be very same Personality of Godhead. We can just imagine how learned he was, yet he was traveling door to door, just like an ordinary beggar, for the highest benefit of human society. Verse 106. Parama Tattva Para Brahma Parama Ishwar Dekhi Prabhura Murti Sarvajna Haila Fan Fara. Param Tattva, the Supreme Truth, Para Brahma, the Supreme Brahman, Parameshwar, the Supreme Lord, Dekhi, seeing, Prabhura of the Lord, Murti, form, Sarvjana, the all-knowing astrologer, Haila, became Fanfara, confused. Translation: seeing Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to be the same absolute truth, the Supreme Brahman, the personality of the Godhead, the astrologer was confused. Purport: herein it is clearly indicated that the absolute truth, the Supreme Brahman, is in the ultimate issue, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, a person is the beginning of all things. As confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita 10.8, Mattaha Sarvam Pravartate, everything begins from the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The Supreme Lord is the Supreme Living Entity. Therefore, whatever exists, whether matter or spirit, is all but an emanation from the Supreme Person or Supreme Life. The modern scientist theory that life begins from matter is nonsense. Both matter and life begin from life. Unfortunately, the scientists do not know this scientific fact. They are drifting in the darkness of their so-called knowledge. Verse 107. Balite na pare kichu mona haila Prabhu punaha prashna kaila kahite lagila. Balite, to say na pare, is not able, kichu nothing, mon silent, haila became. Prabhu the Lord, punaha again, prashna question, kaila put, kahite to speak, lagila began. Struck with wonder, the astrologer remained silent, unable to speak, but when the Lord again put the question before him, he replied as follows. Verse 108. Purva janme chila tumi jagat ashraya paripurna bhagwan sarvaishwarya maya. Purva janme, in the previous birth, chila were, tumi you, jagat universe, ashraya shelter, paripurna with the full potencies, bhagwan the supreme personality of Godhead, Sarva Aishwarya Maya, full of all opulences. Translation: My dear sir, in your previous birth, you were the shelter of all creation, the supreme personality of Godhead, full of all opulences. Verse 109. Purve yaiche chila tumi ebeha serupa durvijnaya nityananda tumar swarupa. Purve, in the past, yaiche, as much as, chila you were, tumi you, ebeha, Ebeha, now also, Serupa, the same thing, Durvijnaya, inconceivable, Nityanand, eternal happiness, Tomar, your Swarupa, identity. Translation: You are now the same personality of Godhead that you were in your previous birth. Your identity is inconceivable, eternal happiness. Purport: By the power of astrological science, one can even ascertain the position of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Everything is to be identified by its symptoms. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is identified by the symptoms mentioned in the Shastras. It is not that anyone and everyone can become God without proof from Shastras. Verse 110. Prabhu hasi kaila tumi kichu na janila purve ami achilan jatite goyala. Prabhu the Lord, hasi smiling, kaila said, to me you kichu anything na, not janila, no, purve in the past, ami I, achilan was, jatite by caste, goyala is cowherd. So like we say in Hindi gwala, so in Bengali it's called goyala. Translation: When the astrologer was speaking so highly of him, Sri Caitanya Mahāprabhu stopped him and began to smile. My dear sir, he said, I think you do not know very clearly what I was, for I know that in my previous birth I was a cowherd boy. Verse 111. Gopa grihe janmachila gabhira rakhala se punye hailan ebe brahmana chauyala. Gopagrihe, in the house of the cowherd, Janma birth, Chila there was, Gabhira of the cows, Rakhala protector, Se Pune by those pious activities, Hailan became Ebe now, Brahmana of the Brahman, Chauyala son. Translation: My past birth, I was born in the family of cowherd men, and I gave protection to the cows and cows because of such pious activities. I have now become the son of a Brahman. Purport: The words of Lord Caitanya Mahāprabhu, the greatest authority, herein clearly indicate that one becomes pious simply by keeping cows and protecting them. Unfortunately, people have become such rascals that they do not even care about the words of an authority. People generally consider cowherd men lowly members of society, but herein Caitanya Mahāprabhu confirms that they are so pious that in their next lives they are going to be Brahmins. The caste system has a specific purpose. If this scientific system is followed, human society will get the greatest benefit. Heeding this instruction by the Lord, people should serve cows and calves and in return get ample quantities of milk. There is no loss in serving the cows and calves, but modern human society has become so degraded that instead of giving protection to the cows and serving them, people are killing them. How can they expect peace and prosperity in the society while committing such sinful activities? It is impossible. Verse 112. Sarvajana kahe amit taha dhyane Dekilan tahate aishwarya deki fanfara ha ilan. Sarvajna, the all-knowing astrologer Kahe says, Ami I taha, that dhyana in meditation, Dekilan saw, tahate there, aishwarya opulence, Deki by seeing, fanfar confused, ha ilan became. Hailan became. The astrologer said, what I saw in meditation was full of opulence and therefore I was confused. Purport, it appears that the astrologer not only was knower of past, present and future through astrological calculations, but was a great mediator as well. Therefore, he was a great devotee and could see Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to be the same personality as Krishna. Actually, I just realized that I shouldn't be saying Krishna because there is no diacritic on the letter A. Rather, I should be saying Krishna. As Krishna, he was puzzled, however, about whether Krishna and Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu were actually the same person. Verse 113, Sai Rupe, Ei Rupe Dekhi Ekakar, Kabu Bheda Dekhi Ai Mayaya Tumar. Sai Rupe in that form, Ei Rupe in this form, Dekhi Ai Ekakar in one form, Kabhu sometimes Bheda difference, Dekhi I see Ai this, Mayaya Tumar, your Maya. Translation, I'm certain that your form and the form I saw in my meditation are one and the same. If I see any difference, this is an act of your illusory energy. Purport, Shri Krishna Chaitanya, Radha Krishna Nahe Anya. In the vision of a perfect devotee, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is a combination of Radha and Krishna. One who sees Lord Chaitanya to be different from Krishna is under the illusory energy of the Lord. It appears that the astrologer was already an advanced devotee, and when he came to the presence of the Supreme Personality of Supreme Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he became perfectly self-realized and could see that the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna and Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu are one and the same Supreme Person. Verse 114, Ye how say how to me, Tomake namaskar Prabhu tare prem diya kaila puraskar. Synonyms are as follows, Ye how, whatever you are, say how to me, whatever you may be. Tomake, unto you, namaskar, my obeisances, Prabhu, the Lord, tare, unto him, prema, love of Godhead, diya, delivered, kaila, did, puraskar, honor. Translation, the all-knowing astrologer concluded, whatever you may be or whoever you may be, I offer my respectful obeisances unto you. By his causeless mercy, the Lord then gave him love of Godhead, thus rewarding him for his service. Purport, the incident of Lord Chaitanya's meeting the all-knowing astrologer is not mentioned in the Chaitanya Bhagavat, but we cannot therefore say that it did not take place. On the contrary, we must accept the statement of Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami that whatever the Chaitanya Bhagavat did not mention, he has especially mentioned in Chaitanya Charitamrita. Verse 115, Ekadina Prabhu Vishnu Mandape Vasiya Madhu An Balena Takiya. Ekadina, one day Prabhu the Lord Vishnu Mandape in the corridor of Vishnu temple, Vasiya sitting, Madhu An bring honey, Madhu An bring honey, Balena says, Dakiya calling loudly. Translation, one day the Lord sat down in the corridor of a Vishnu temple and began calling loudly, bring some honey, bring some honey. Verse 116, Nityananda Gosani Prabhura Avesha Janila Ganga Jal Patra Ani Sanmukhe Dharila. Nityananda Gosani, Lord Nityananda Prabhu, Prabhura of the Lord, Avesha, ecstasy, Janila, could understand, Ganga Jal, Ganges water, Patra pot, Ani bringing, Sanmukhe in front, Dharila placed it. Translation, Nityananda Prabhu Goswami, understanding the ecstatic mood of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, brought a pot of Ganges as token and put it before him. So we will continue our reading from verse 117 next time. Thank you all for joining. I wish you all a very blissful weekend ahead. Keep chanting, keep reading Prabhupada books, and distribute the same love to others, and make your lives very happy in this material world, and try to get out of this material world so that you can get closer and closer to Krishna. Okay, even if you have to come back as a member of devotee family, or in a life where you don't have to work so hard to earn money that there is no time for you to serve the Lord. Hari Om Tat Sat. Hare Krishna.